I call this the Holy Grail, and as Tom referred to before, it looks like we've got a better stamp duty position than I talked about last year. And so this is the kind of one I was just saying to Terry in the break. This is the kind of one where if you find a friend or a client who's in this situation, you might get that Guernsey to their wedding or lunches for quite a while if you get a result like this for them. So in this case, Lucky Eddie has a self-managed super fund, and that's his balance is $1.6 million. So he can't make those non-concessional contributions into super anymore because he's over that $1.6 million total super balance. His family trust owns a property worth $3 million. And so that's the freehold. The freehold's worth $3 million, and that runs his business on it. And so that's eligible for that 15-year retirement exemption. So that's a really good earner for him, and he's on the top marginal tax rate outside of super. So he wants to get that property into super. But he's over the $1.6 million, so how's he going to get that in? Through that CGT cap, obviously, but instead of doing it as an REIQ contract, he's doing it as a declaration of trust. So it's declared that that freehold is no longer held on the trust of the family trust, it's held on the trust of the super fund. The super fund's still got to pay for that. So it's got that money in there, pays that to the family trust. The family trust then makes that CGT cap contribution back in. That's increased the super balance, and Lucky's self-managed super fund still makes that final $1.4 million payment. So it's bought that entire $3 million property. Really good earner inside of that super fund. And there's no prohibition. I mean, Lucky's family trust with that extra cash could even do a limited recourse borrowing arrangement, providing it's on commercial terms, back into the super fund, to buy another asset or buy some, buy another property or whatever. But this is a situation where Lucky Eddie is probably in a situation where, one, he's approaching that $6 million net asset test, so he might not be eligible for these really generous capital gains tax small business concessions moving forward. Two, we're a bit concerned that there might be legislation to fix up this disparity, that people who are selling a small business asset who have already got $1.6 million in super can get another $1.6 million in super, so they're on a different playing field than the rest of the PAYG. So whilst they still haven't fixed up that anomaly, he's pretty keen to crystallise this transaction and get that into the super fund. And even better, usually you'd be paying $150,000 stamp duty, and doing it via a declaration of trust properly set up, we're doing that without stamp duty. And like Tom was saying before, I've seen some assessments from the Office of State Revenues for family trusts where we've changed those default beneficiaries, and under that section 118, we've got that exemption. So the idea there is, even if that family trust doesn't have a default beneficiary, first step is we change it to put Lucky Eddie in as that default beneficiary, then we do that declaration of trust and we get that over to the super fund. Normally the conversation goes, oh, it's a necessary evil, you've got to pay $150,000 stamp duty, but the tax savings, that'll get paid off over a number of years. But it's real cherry on the pie, so to speak, of being able to say this can be done without stamp duty. So if you have any friends who are in this situation, or your client book looking at that, they'll probably be pretty happy with a scenario where they can get a good earner into super without stamp duty. But they've got to have been running that business for 15 years to get eligibility for this CGT exemption. But another good time to look at these is before the budget, because that's when we always get those surprise announcements that can kill off all of these great ideas that me and Tom and the other lawyers and accountants talk about.